Hey, welcome to the channel, CNC. My name's Cody, this is Chris. We want to talk about nerdy things, and one of the big nerdy things right now that we really think is exciting to talk about and look at is a new show that's been on Amazon Prime for just a few weeks, and that show, a cartoon known as Invincible. It's a superhero cartoon that just truly, it really epitomizes everything about superhero stuff, and it reminds me in some ways of darker things, and also a lot of really lighthearted, fun stuff. Like, that's what you come into that show thinking it is, especially if you haven't read the comics of it. And I haven't read the comics yet, and after seeing some of these episodes, I want to, but I also want to, I don't know about you, but the suspense of not knowing what's coming.
Yeah, I haven't seen the comics yet either. I'm one of the kind of guys that, like, for some of the stuff, I almost want to, I want to know the background, so I've been having a really hard time not looking up the comics and not watching, YouTube videos talking about these characters and their background and what they're going to be capable of. But I haven't yet. I haven't ruined it for myself. But
and I'm glad you haven't, because there really is. I agree with you. It's frustrating not knowing. But it reminds me of back in the 90s when you had to wait a week for your next episode of something. And that was hard.
Yeah, I was born in 94, so the majority of my life I've been binge-watching things.
Yeah. I remember my first time when I watched Star Trek and some of the stuff, and I actually got to see some of it actually on TV, and I realized it was Star Trek Enterprise in the 2000s. Then I went, I have to wait a week to see anything, and I have to go over to my friend's house to see it because we didn't have the stations at my house. And that's interesting. Invincible is a show that, in just a moment, we're going to get into spoilers and kind of look through the episodes that have been out so far. There's 6 episodes so far. They have, I believe, an 8-episode series run coming out, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it if you love superhero stuff. It is not a cartoon for kids.
No.
But it, ironically, I described it to you as it's milquetoast stuff. Like, it's just plain and simple. At least that's what you think when you first start watching it.
And then...
And we'll get to spoilers in a minute.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you just go, that is not what this is.
And I think it does a good job of, showing problems that a teenager who comes into having superpowers would realistically face.
Yes. And, that's really not much of a spoiler in any way, because the trailers just show this idea of a superhero coming into his own, and that's such a cool thing. Like, that's a fun concept of starting to learn your power set, to discover what you can and can't do, what you can and can't take. Mm-hmm. Man, that whole concept is so big and awesome. Now, as we get ready to go into some spoilers on this, because really there's so much good stuff to talk about and theories and spoiler stuff, we just want to encourage you to, down in the comments, to share your thoughts on the show if you've seen it. We want to discuss with you, what's your favorite episode? What have you enjoyed so far in this show if you've gotten to see it? Or if you haven't seen it yet, why not?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just not your thing, or you came here to look for a nerdy discussion and you're like, superheroes, not my thing. But side note, also watch My Hero Academia. It's a pretty fun one too.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty fun one. And One Punch Man, man, there's a lot of good superhero cartoons and anime and other things that come out right now, and it's like, this is solid stuff. It's almost like Marvel opened the door in some ways.
And it's refreshing because we've known these other superheroes for years, and there are new ones being introduced.
Yeah, and I've always been afraid that we wouldn't get that, because you see Marvel just absolutely destroying everything as far as doing so well, and DC's trying, at least in their live action stuff, and it's hard to go, man, can anybody else compete?
Yeah.
And then these things happen, and you go, they can. As a side note, I mean, the best thing about this cartoon in some ways, too, is the voice actors behind the scenes. They're really good.
Yeah.
But also, very quickly in the trailers at all, you see that J.K. Simmons is one of the main people. And they didn't play around with their design with him. He literally looks like J. Jonah Jameson from the old Spider-Man films.
Yeah.
Like, straight up with the flat top haircut.
High and tight.
The mustache. And then there's J.K. Simmons' voice. Boom. You're like, it's J.K. Simmons, but as a superhero. Cool. What else can you say? So, do we need to say anything else, Chris, before we go to the kind of spoiler talk and go into some more of the episodes themselves?
No, I think anything else will come up while we're talking about the show.
Okay. This is a big thing. You know, here's spoiler warning, right? We're going to go really into the details of this. We wanted to do episode reviews, but the show dropped, I think, the first 4 episodes right away, or at least the first two.
I don't know. I didn't start watching until the 5th one was
right, and that was the thing. I didn't start watching for a little while, and I just saw advertisements, and I said, I will give it a shot. You know, and spoilers right here, right? And like I said, that first episode was milquetoast. It was plain Jane. It was nothing. It was... And I don't say that in a bad way at all. In fact, it was exciting in the sense of, like, new superhero stuff, and I came to the conclusion, like, okay, I'm going to watch this. I'm enjoying it. It's not anything... game-changing or life-altering, but...
I mean, it was for Invincible.
Yeah, but the last... Well, when were you shocked in that first episode? And then we'll talk exactly how this first episode kind of plays out.
I enjoyed the whole thing, but I was shocked at, like, the post-credit scene, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
All the episodes have this thing where the credits start rolling for, like, 4 seconds, and then they cut to a scene, and then they roll the rest of the credits.
Yeah. Again, a Marvel thing. Like,
yeah.
It just... Marvel really popularized this idea, and now it's hard not to leave a movie theater, because you're like, I might miss something.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just nothing, you know, some stupid scene, if there is a scene. But... we've been trained.
Mm-hmm.
So that first episode, really you're introduced to a few things. You're introduced to Mark, the young superhero, but he's not a superhero yet.
No, he's just a normal guy whose dad is a superhero.
Yeah, his dad is the J.K. Simmons character of Omni-Man, and Omni-Man is literally like Superman, just completely and entirely. Yeah, like, which is crazy to think that, you know, we're talking about like Kingdom Come type Superman, just on the rails, crazy powerful.
Not weak against Kryptonite, not weak against Red Suns.
Yeah, there's really no weakness. And you
that
go,
we've
man,
seen.
That's true. That is true. And so you have this character, and you know, you have a son looking up to his dad and being told by his dad at an early age, you're gonna get superpowers. And he doesn't. For years and years and years.
Yeah.
And I think, is he 18? He's 17 or 18. I think
he's not... I'd say he's probably 17, because he's still in high school. He might be 18.
I can't remember, but
he's
he's
looking at college
age. Yeah. So it's towards the end of his time in high school, but
I think the first episode they 17. Say that all Viltrumites get their power by the age of 18.
That's the number, yeah. And so it's so fascinating seeing him struggling through this, and then all of a sudden, is it the first time he realizes he's in the back of the burger joint he works at, and
he throws the trash bag?
Wait, was that where the burger meat came from in the later episode that crashed down in front of the Queen's palace?
I don't remember that, but probably if that happened.
It's when the White House guard takes his stepson.
I think it is. About that.
I just connected that. Oh my goodness! Sorry guys, that's so bad that I didn't connect that, but I think that's what that was.
Okay.
Side note, I believe that was episode 2 that happens, that this bag of burger meat just crashes down in front of the Queen's
Buckingham Palace.
Buckingham Palace, thank you. I was so confused, like, what was the point of that? And did not connect that. That was
I didn't even think about that.
No, I'm pretty sure
I was just like, that's weird.
When Mark first sees his powers show up, and he accidentally, instead of throwing the trash just into the trash can, he flings it, and you just think it goes into outer space. But apparently, it may have
England.
Low orbit. Yeah. And then I never caught that.
Huh.
That's crazy. Huh? And that's the thing about this show, is it's really good about paying off things. Mm-hmm. It hints at something, and then you go... A lot of shows are really bad about hinting at something and then never paying it off. And you go, well, why did you even bring it up?
Yeah.
And this show, it doesn't do that. It usually has some connection behind the scenes, or at the very least, it's really trained me to go, it may not come up this season, but I know that this is going to be important later. Mm-hmm. Now, I say that, though, too, and then
it might not come up later.
They subverted some expectations in a really good way. Because I was coming in it going, man, this is a regular superhero show. Because very quickly, there's an attack on the White House by the they're the Blue Twins. I can't remember their name, but they clone each other. It's weird. They're crazy. Mm-hmm. I enjoy them.
They argue who's the real one, who's the clone.
Yeah, and later on in the show, you see them actually, like when they do the brain transfer, they have no clue who is there first. They're literally the exact same person because they're sharing the same brain
and you as
code.
a viewer watches one get cloned from the other, so you know.
Yeah.
But as soon as they're up, they're arguing.
And it's so funny to watch that. Like it's good. It's good story stuff. And so that first episode, we see the Guardians of the Globe.
Yeah.
I draw a blank because if you've watched the first episode, you kind of go, well, that wasn't very important then.
Yeah.
But they show up at the White House and they fight these guys, and they're doing pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then Omni-Man shows up, and well, he actually saves a lot of people in the air. And so it's still the Guardians of the Globe that actually finish off the fight, really. But it's just funny because Omni-Man, you can just tell he's like on a different level in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And
you're curious about how far. So let's talk a little bit about the end of the episode. Chris, what happened there? What did we see?
So, from what I remember, and I don't have the greatest memory, the end of the episode, and it's this first post-credit scene, if you want to call it that, the Guardians of the Globe start getting a distress signal, and then they show up to their base, wherever it is, and Omni-Man's there, and they're on a friendly basis with Omni-Man. They've been trying to recruit him for years, but he's like, no, I do my own thing. And
he's kind of like Batman in that way. Batman always says...
Except he'll at least consider himself part of the Justice League.
Right. Well, that's always the funny irony with Batman is he always says, no, I don't want to be part of the team. Then he joins the team, and then he goes, I don't like being part of the team. Leave the team, but then he'll make a bunch of teams with Robin and Nightwing and fill in, Batgirl and all this. Like, anyway, it's just a funny thing that Batman says those things. Mm-hmm. Omni-Man actually
and the show has its own version of Batman. It has their own version of all of them.
Yeah, the Guardians of the Globe literally are the Justice League. I mean, you could see the parallels in a lot of ways. Some of them are a little bit different than just, this is clearly Wonder Woman, because there's their Wonder Woman character she has a mace. Yeah. And she kind of acts more like Hawk Girl. Yeah. As well. It's kind of a combo thing.
I remember right, her mask kind of makes me think of that too.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's like, I thought Wonder Woman, and then you thought she was Hawk Girl. And I was like, that's interesting, because she's kind of, she has traits from some of both of those, but the armor makes her more look like a Hawk Girl type character, but she doesn't have wings.
Yeah, and then there's the Red Blur, who's obviously Flash.
The Red Rush.
Red Rush.
Red Rush.
And I like what they, like, you see one little scene with him and his girlfriend, and I like that because she feels like he's bored with her, and he explains, like, it's not just when I'm running that I'm this fast. My mind's always moving this fast. A conversation feels like an eternity with anyone. Yeah.
And I love when superhero shows do that. Mm-hmm. That they actually address the fact that if you have certain superpowers, they have things that are problems. Mm-hmm. That are very real things. And that is such a true thing, that if everything's fast for you, everything's boring. Mm-hmm. Everything around you just kind of sucks. And that would stink, And they do... In one episode, they do a good job of making you go, these are going to be interesting characters to follow, to pay attention to. But then what else happens in that end credit scene?
So then they get there. Omni-Man's already there. We're going to go off on tangents on this show.
Oh, man. Because it's so good. It is so good.
So they get there. Omni-Man's already there. And they ask him why he's there. And I don't remember exactly what happens.
I don't think he even says a word. He just goes into... Well, no, he's in the background, and Red Rush senses that he's there, and because he's already trying to punch. Mm-hmm. He's trying to punch one of the characters. I can't remember which one, but he's going for it, and Red Rush dashes that person out of the way. Like,
yeah, and then he grabs Red Rush, and then all you see is he just grabs Red Rush's head, and he doesn't have a head anymore.
Yeah. That scene changed that show for me.
Instantly.
Before it even goes to the rest of that whole thing, But that moment I went, this isn't just a kid's show. This is in fact something way more serious.
And you have no idea up to this point, because to watch the episode, Amazon made me put in my code for violence or whatever, and I was watching the whole episode like, why did I have to put in my pin code for this? And then that happens, and you just and it's not just like he starts crushing his head and the scene cuts away. No, you see his head get crushed and everything happen.
Yeah, and what's funny is as he's getting crushed, he's trying to punch Omni-Man, and he's actually hurting him because you see bruises on his chest, and it's going through his suit, which I'm a little shocked at in part because Red Rush didn't seem like super strength. He just seemed fast, but it's that idea of like friction that you're creating.
I mean, they talk in the 5th episode, I think, that there are friction burns on his suit, and that's why there's holes in it.
That's true. They do. By the way, the Taylor later on the show is voiced by Mark Hamill, and that is fantastic. You didn't catch that?
Nope.
Well, I didn't actually the first time I was watching it, and I rewatched it with my brother, and I was like, I should have really paid more attention to that, because that's... I think I caught it the second time he showed up. I was like, that sounds awfully familiar, and I pulled up the X-ray thing you can do on there.
I was like, oh, he's the Joker.
I was like, that sounds familiar. And it sounds like a non-crazy Joker. And then I'm like, yeah, that's Mark Hamill. And Michael Dorn's in it, who plays Worf in Star Trek. He's very typecast as far as animation, what type of character he voices.
Yeah, but we'll get into that in a later episode.
Yeah, sorry. It's just funny to see that. But that point in the show changed everything for me. It was like, yeah, it's not going to just be a simple thing. Like when you had to put in your code, it wasn't...
Yeah, that's weird.
It wasn't... You're like, why? Because the rest of the beginning of the episode isn't really that...
There's nothing
intense.
else. There's nothing else like that in the
So you're putting in the code for literally that last couple minutes.
Yeah.
After the credits.
And so then after he crushes Red Rush...
Yes,
Red
Red
Rush's
Rush.
head... then it just goes into this intense fight scene where everyone's trying to take on Omni-Man, and he's just, like, instantly, like, KOing everyone. Not even KO, and he straight up kills everyone.
He grabs Darkwing, I believe that's his name, and slams him on the ground
That's
and
the
against
Batman
the wall.
equivalent, of course.
Yeah, the Batman equivalent's gone. Nope, because you see his very clearly at one point when he gets hit. I think it's him that gets hit on the ground. You see the back of his skull and stuff go out. I think that's the end. And then he throws Darkwing to the Green Ghost, and then she realizes too late that he did that just to make her catch him.
And she's the Green Lantern kind of equivalent.
Yeah, she can like phase through things and some odd stuff. It's kind of a weird power set.
She has like a gel type stuff that makes shapes, kind of like the Lantern Ring does.
Did she?
Yeah.
Okay,
Because in the beginning she like eats that like pill looking thing.
Yeah, I saw her eat the pill. I don't remember her making constructs. I just don't. That's interesting. I just remember her phasing to save those kids. That's the only thing I remember.
I don't remember that.
Because she like had to touch him to make sure she could phase him as well. Because she like touched him with her toe just to make sure he could phase through the cinder block that was falling. It was a pretty cool thing. So I don't remember the construct stuff, but that scene for her. But she catches him, and then Omni-Man's right there, and she realizes too late. She is, oh crap, and she punched right through her head, gone. And then I think the next one that dies is the Aquaman, but he's actually like a fish guy.
Yeah.
How does he die? Like, does he get clapped? I don't remember.
I don't remember what happens with him.
No, Omni-Man gets the mace and clubs him with it right in the head. Gone.
And then there's Martian Man, who of course is the Martian Manhunter equivalent.
Yeah. Well, at that point there's 3 left. There's the Wonder Woman hot girl type character. There's their version of Superman, Mr. Immortal, I think.
I think he's just called
Immortal. And then the Martian Man. And so Martian Man is trying to restrain Omni-Man, and the other 2 are just beating the snot out of him.
And so Martian Man can like stretch himself and stuff. So he stretches himself around Omni-Man, and Omni-Man just rips him in half like a piece of paper.
Yeah, and then he does it again, but then Omni-Man and you see him intentionally reaching for a specific like pinkish spot that's on Martian Man, and it's like, I'm pretty sure that's his brain.
Okay.
I think. That's my best guess. So he can transform, but he still has to have his brain whole, which is actually an interesting weakness piece, and a good one. And yeah, he pulls the brain out, and you just see Martian Man start disintegrating on the floor. Ooh.
Yeah.
And then things get really real. He snaps Wonder Woman, Hot Girls. I don't even remember her name.
Neither do I.
Like,
yeah, he snaps her neck, and you just see her head twist, and her head's facing
she
the
coughs
opposite
blood
direction.
down onto the back of her cape, and you're just like, I think she's dead.
Yeah.
Like, dead. And then Mr. Immortal, he punches through the chest, and Immortal keeps going, why? Why are you doing this? Why? Omni-Man says nothing! And then just takes his hand and karate chops
Through his neck. Just
Immortal's head
decapitates
right
him.
off. You're like, what in the world?
And then the episode doesn't end immediately.
Yeah.
Because the Guardians called for help, and then they're like... I guess it would be kind of like a shield.
I think that's actually the beginning of episode 2.
Is it?
Yeah, because I think
Okay.
the end of episode 1 is Omni-Man faints on the ground. Like
That's right.
He was hurt enough. And what's interesting is you had some theories about this, and we'll kind of conclude soon. We haven't got much into the rest of the episodes.
No.
Because it's such a big show. But you had said something about something changed, you thought, in Omni-Man.
Mm-hmm. And we went ahead and talked about the end of the episode. By this point, Mark has started developing his powers. Mm-hmm. He gets him like maybe a third of the way through the episode, and Omni-Man starts training him how to use them. And then he starts acting a little weird. He starts getting like sharp with his wife, which they've always gotten along great. And then the end of the episode ends with this.
Yeah. So what do you think changed in Omni-Man there?
So my theory, after I watched the first episode, was we don't know a lot about the Viltrumites, which is the
we have no
race
clue, really.
that Omni-Man is. Instead of the Kryptonians, there's the Viltrumites, and they're from Viltrum, I think is the name of the
and when
planet.
I say we don't know really much of anything...
We don't know. And if you've just watched the show, you don't know.
Yeah, Omni-Man says things.
Yeah.
But how can you trust him?
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one from there.
Yeah.
You're relying on a source that may or may not be legitimate.
So what he says is Viltrumites grow up on Viltrum, and then they're sent out, or there's a group of them that train to be sent out to other planets and help these planets develop and protect the planets and stuff like that. That's what he says. My theory on it from episode 1 was that there's something that happens with Viltrumite fathers when their child develops power that they start to like turn as maybe like a training device for their kid that they're eventually going to have to fight.
That's
and so I think that that's having something to do psychologically, because one thing that Omni-Man says in the episode when Mark isn't around, he says it to his wife, is we would have been better off if he never developed powers.
Yeah.
So I think that he knows that he's going to start developing these changes now and start darkening, and I think it's kind of scaring him.
Right. That's interesting. See, I had come away wondering some other pieces, and even my brother had another theory that was interesting, was that, oh goodness, I'm drawing a blank on what my brother said, but I'll talk about mine. Just this idea that I almost think that the change more so was not necessarily that anything inside of him changed, but he had directives from Viltrum to do certain things if they could breed with humans. Mm-hmm. Because if they saw that humanity could bring about more children, I almost wonder if on their planet they aren't able to have kids. And what we're actually seeing is if they can have kids with other people and they get their traits and powers.
Okay.
That leads itself to then all of a sudden his mandate is progress further of if A happens, then you do B.
Okay.
You take out the superheroes, you make the planet ready for us to come in, conquer, take over, find a wife or husband, and have kids so we can keep our race going. That's a theory.
Okay.
I haven't read the comics, and on purpose right now, because the show is so good in that. My brother's theory was it's possible that Omni-Man's powers are diminishing once Mark got powers. And like that doesn't necessarily explain the change that he has as far as just murdering the Guardians of the Globe. But it does address the just the interesting thing of how he changes in his mindset.
Yeah.
So my change really, I think, is just the fact that I really think that when he says that comment of things would have been better if he'd never gotten powers, he could have just lived his life on Earth as a superhero, and not had to go all crazy.
Yeah, and back to your brother's theory, you pointed out to me there's one scene where the director of this Shield-esque organization says that he's never seen Omni-Man on the ropes like that. Yeah. So it sounds like potentially he could be weakening some.
And that was the point my brother had made, because in a later episode he's fighting something that honestly, it's a big monster, but it doesn't seem like it would be as tough as fighting the Guardians of the Globe. Yeah. I'd say we should wrap it up here pretty quick, but at the very least we should just say that the next few episodes really, they hint more and more that something is wrong with Omni-Man. Mm-hmm. I mean, he literally wipes out an entire alien planet, it seems like, by dropping a mountain on their planet to probably, like with Avengers Age of Ultron, cause mass extinction event after he's already pretty much wiped out most of his civilization. Yeah. And nobody's going to know what he actually did, because it was just him on that planet.
That's true.
Other than the aliens. There's so many good things in this show. So many times where they subvert expectations in a really good way. Because normally I'm a little bit on the fence about those kind of things. Because you have to be careful with it. But there's a moment, and I think it's episode 2 or 3, where Mark is sent to fight a guy that comes to Earth. And Omni-Man usually fights him. And when they fight, basically it's just you have to beat the guy up and he'll leave. Well, Mark starts fighting him and goes, "Hey, whoa, hold up. What's going on? I'm confused." And the guy's like, "You're calling your timeout? Timeout? I didn't know I got one of those." And they sit down and talk while they're on the moon, which is funny. Yeah. And they're talking telepathically. And come to find out, it's all a big misunderstanding. And so they actually don't fight for very long, but it actually made it way better of a fight because it was funny. Yeah. In the sense that it was just a misunderstanding. Omni-Man never took the time to just stop. He just beat the snot out of this guy, which I'm shocked the guy didn't get killed.
And so the reason this guy came to the planet is he's from some intergalactic organization, and he's a inspector, if you will. Yeah. He goes to planets, fights that planet's guardian or protector, and to make sure that he's tough enough to protect the planet, grades them, and then goes. And in this situation, he accidentally came to the wrong planet.
He came to Earth instead of Urath or something. Yeah. It was spelled with a U at the beginning. And he's like, and Mark's like, "No, Earth, E-A, you sure?" He's like, "You sure it doesn't start with you?" "No." And the guy's like, "Dang it. All right, well, thank you." It just flies off. That's a good way to subvert a fight and the expectation of it. It reminds me of WandaVision, because I think one of my favorite superhero fights in some ways was Vision fighting Vision.
I am the ship. You are the ship. We are the ship.
We should fix the ship. And I'm sorry if that gives away something. I really do. But side note, do watch that show. And it's a fight that subverts expectations, because it's not about a knockdown drag out. It's about actually understanding. Yeah. And sometimes those can be almost as entertaining, especially if you already have good action in a show. And so we didn't get to all the other episodes in part, but just know that these all episodes, they tie together, and you're still trying to unravel, how do people know that Omni-Man murdered all these people? Are there other factors involved in what's going on behind the scenes? The SHIELD organization, are they good? Are they evil? Are they just the government? What do you do with that? And that's good stuff. These are good questions that keep you engaged. Yeah. And they pay off these things, but the bigger question of Omni-Man is a slow burn in the story. All right, last thoughts, Chris. What you got?
It's a really good show. Watch it. We'll probably talk about it again soon.
Yeah, we'll look at some further episodes as they come out, and we'll try to backtrack a little bit, because we didn't connect all the dots, because we could talk for 2-3 hours on some of that stuff, because it's beautiful. It really is a beautiful show. Yeah, we didn't even talk about Teen Team. No. Or Monster Girl. No. Or Robot. I mean, he's part of Teen Team, but he's such much more, too. And that's also Zachary Quinto that voices Spock in the newer Star Trek movies. Which is pretty cool. So, anyway, we have been Chris and Cody, CNC. And I was like, wait a minute. We're just so excited to get to touch base with you guys about this show. Please leave your comments about the episodes and what you thought of the show down below, because we'd like to have a discussion with you as well. Take care and have a great day.
See ya.